Welcome to the Future Film Podcast.
This week we're talking about that.
Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Future Film Podcast, guys. It's Kyler.
And Ethan.
And Michael.
And we're talking about that, meaning silence. This week we watched the movie The General with Buster Keaton. But now before we get to that, Ethan has to give his unpopular movie opinion of the week.
Lily, I hate.
Again.
Oh my gosh.
Because he sucks at games.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. I hate the Joker. Well, not hate. I'd watch it again.
Shame on you. No, you wouldn't. You said so many times that you wouldn't.
I would.
Let's clarify. We're talking about the most recent
Yes,
film.
the new one that just
with
recently
Joaquin
came
Phoenix
out.
in 2019.
I would watch it again, but literally, I walked out of the movie theater like, holy crap, there's a demon in my life now. It was so, it was a good movie. It was too good. I think that's why I don't like it as much, because the Joker was portrayed so well. And I think it was too much for me to handle, honestly. Like, I would watch it again, now that I'm going into the mindset of, like, it's just a movie, you know. And, you know, the first time watching it, it can be kind of rough, but...
It was definitely intense the first time I watched it.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, I don't do a lot of blood and gore, and it definitely had a lot of that. But me, you know, loving film as much as I do, is a beautiful, beautiful movie. Beautiful.
And I think that I can relate with the both of y'all. It was hard for me to watch Shawshank Redemption, our last one.
Right.
Just because it's not something I'm necessarily comfortable with.
But the difference between the two is, like, this is more of, like, a horror. And I love horror films, you know? But it was more like a psychological horror rather than, like, you know, a ghost. Like, you know.
Yeah.
It was just hard.
Supernatural. Yeah.
So, yeah, Joker is definitely not one of my favorites, to say the least. But, hey, Kyler, why don't you go ahead and start us off and mention your Star Wars fact just to get it over with?
Okay, so getting over the Star Wars fact. This week is going to be our last Star Wars fact for a while, actually. And this week's about The Mandalorian. So Disney has come out with the new show. And if y'all are watching the new show, the behind-the-scenes show about The Mandalorian, you might have seen this already, but they have a brand new way of doing a green screen, where instead of having just green walls up, CG artists have already created an entire world environment backdrop in a computer, just like you would see in the finished product. And now they are projecting it real time onto white screens so that they can move the world around on the screen. So it looks like, in camera, the Mandalorian's actually walking through a desert planet when in fact he's in a white room with a projector wall. Like, it looks so realistic, and I never noticed it when watching The Mandalorian, but it's crazy because they showed having the little Ugnaught guy, his name's Quill, I think, but he was sitting on his little baby dewback thing that he had. He was riding it, and of course it's all animatronic and whatever, but they show this little fake robot animatronic creature moving, and he's just rocking back and forth on top of this robot, and the entire background is moving past him. And it's a really old trick, but the fact that they're able to do that with CGI backgrounds in real time now, and it look perfect, is insane.
Mm-hmm.
So, Star Wars fact of the week. Last one for a while. We're going to do some other movie facts coming up. But this week we're doing The General with Buster Keaton. So, what'd y'all think?
It was okay. Like, I'm really slow when it comes to even watching movies. And this is a movie that was totally new to me, you know? Like, reading. It was a silent film, for those who do not know. I don't know if we mentioned it yet. We did. And literally, it was... I got a lot of it, you know, like the general premise of the movie, but it was very hard to follow for me personally. But it was still a good movie. What do you think about... how was the movie for you, Michael?
So overall, I thought it was pretty much a snooze fest, seeing as it was a silent film.
Uncultured swine.
I almost disagree with you. You were laughing through the entire thing.
Except for the funny parts. There's a lot of times in that movie where it's just it's a lot of filler is what it is, because it is a silent film, so they have to accommodate for the lack of speech, the lack of dialect. So there's a lot of filler, and a lot of that filler is pretty funny. But when it comes down to the more serious part of the movie, that's where I'm just like, okay, I'm about to fall asleep.
I love the movie. I think it's freaking hilarious. I think that it's. I can't believe that it was made in 1926. I think, yeah, 1926. I'm amazed at how clear the story was, even with it being silent. Plus, how it kept my attention and was freaking funny the whole time. So, a general summary: there's a man named Johnny Gray. He's a train conductor, and his train's name is the General. That's why we have the title The General. And at the very beginning of the movie, the Civil War starts, and he tries to enlist. He gets rejected, and a year later, and there's a little title card pops up. A year later, the Union actually steals his train, and so, being a good train conductor, he goes and chases after it. Ends up in Union territory, has to impersonate a Union officer, finds the love of his life, has been kidnapped by them, rescues her, and then as he hightails it back with his train and his girl into the Confederate territory where he's from, he ends up switching into a Confederate officer's uniform and then leading a battle against the Union by total mistake. Everything happened to this guy by mistake. It's not even fair that he's alive. But he ends up winning this huge battle for the Confederacy. And he's made a general, I think, in the Confederate Army. So that's the general overview of the film. Now, specifics. Let's get into some notes.
So one of my favorite parts about the movie was that he was just a big klutz, and that made it so funny throughout the entire movie. I didn't get any of like the dialogue and stuff because, again, I'm a little retarded when it comes to that type of stuff. But it was really like, that was the thing that kept me going, and that was the one thing that kept me alive through the entire thing.
I think that he has to be the prototype for Jack Sparrow. Everything happened to this dude by luck. It's not even fair. He should be dead.
That's a pretty good
There was
analogy.
a cannon.
That's a great analogy.
At the beginning of the film, when he was trying to get his train back, he found a cannon of all things just on wheels, and he hooks it to a train, chases down
in the middle of
Union.
nowhere. The cannon was in the middle of nowhere.
He hooks it to this train that he stole to get back his train, loads the cannon, fires it, and the cannon just accidentally tilts downward. You think it's going to fire straight at him, and then his train turns a corner. It fires straight into the train that the Union stole. It doesn't make sense. This guy should be dead.
You know, now, like, actually realizing what you just said, that is perfect.
That's
like
a great analogy.
Like you said, that's a great analogy, because that's the basis of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Everything happens to this dude by luck.
Yeah, especially Jack Sparrow.
I think the difference between
Is he
the two...
the thought at Pirates of the Caribbean is, does he plan this, or does he just make it up as he goes along?
I think the only excuse is that Jack Sparrow's mainly drunk half the time,
Yeah,
but
fair,
the other guy
yeah,
isn't.
fair,
so, like,
So one thing I noticed about the movie was the music. Obviously, there was music the entire time, and what was so interesting is, like, I know that there's significance to the music, but I can't define it. Like, I can't understand what themes are meant for who. There are times when it showed a camp, like an army camp, whether that was Union or Confederate, and there was a certain theme that you heard go with it. And just because I'm too far past 1927 and 1864, I don't know which theme was what. And so every time they show this shot and play this blaring trumpet theme, I am clueless as to who I'm looking at.
which is funny because in the beginning scene, I actually called something out because it talks about, the guy who only loved two things. He loved the train and he loved, the girl. And this movie had a lot of background music, and as, it really did set the mood for everything. But one thing that was really cool was that in the beginning scene, a train rolls in, his train, and it's actually playing a song that sounds like a train. It's like fast pace.
Yeah,
It's
like it
very-
mimics just the
it
train.
slowly
hitting
picks up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wheels going on the track.
but it's not a train noise. It's music, but it's just really cool because it kind of set you in the mood of like in your brain just autocorrects to that. It's really well and smart.
They did the same thing whenever he was like stopping the train, and he was like, you see steam coming off the train in small bursts, and you realize, oh, he's pulling the horn. He's honking the train horn, and the music actually imitates the train horn instead of actual train horn. The only music I actually recognized throughout this entire film, one time they played Yankee Doodle.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
they played that once.
it's funny because because during this, normally whenever we film a podcast or record, we don't film. Whenever we record a podcast, we always watch it on our own time. But we thought we would watch it all together, and we were all looking at each other like, all right, well, what does this mean? What does this mean?
Exactly.
And what did it mean? I don't even remember. It was like it was like the Confederate, or not the Confederate. Like you knew something.
Oh, that's what I meant when I was saying like you see the camp and they play this theme.
Oh
and
yeah.
You know it's the theme of that army, whether that's Confederate or Union, but you just don't know which one it is because we're too far past that. But what's really interesting is in 1926 that would have meant something and people would have known it.
Mm-hmm. Like
Because-
almost immediately, like how we knew Yankee Doodle.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean because there's no dialogue, you can't tell. No one can say, "Oh, that's the Union camp." You know it by the music. So that's why it's so interesting that they actually put the themes in there because people would have known them and they would have known the significance, which is pretty cool. Although it sucks for us because we can't tell what's what. We're too far past that point. Favorite part of the movie probably was when the bridge collapsed and the train fell off with it. Now, that's a very specific part, but like there was this part where they had set this bridge on fire. Johnny Gray, the main character, had set this bridge on fire, and then the Union train drives right over it, and it collapses into a freaking river. And I was just sitting there thinking, that is amazing. Buster Keaton actually got to direct that part and say, yeah, can we burn the bridge and make it fall and drop a whole train into the river? And they did it.
And not only did they get to film that, they got to actually like experience that. Like the actors got to experience that in real life. And what I mentioned while we were watching that was, I wonder if they've still left that train there, because that would be amazing to go back and look at. And, you know, people
And
that
actually
haven't
climb on and everything.
and people that haven't seen the movie, they're like, I wonder what
Train in
happened.
the water.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a real thing. So there was this last part of the movie. I think that if this movie had been remade today, I think that, well, maybe not today, but in the recent years, past 20, I think Don Knotts would have been the main character that Buster Keaton played. If y'all don't know who Don Knotts is, watch the Andy Griffith Show. He is such this like squirrely, ditzy character in that show, and that's kind of the character he played throughout any movie I've ever seen him in. Any show, he's just this clueless man who can't get a hold of life, and he would have been perfect for this. Now, at the end of the movie, he finally gets the girl, and he's made a Confederate soldier, and then he's made a lieutenant of all things, so he's of rank. He, like, people have to salute him when they walk by, and he realizes this. He's trying to kiss his girl, you know, because they finally, like, reunited, and they're safe and everything, and soldiers just keep walking by, and he has to just keep saluting them over and over again.
While they're kissing.
While
and
they're
not
kissing.
stop kissing. Like, he can't even
He
look
just-
at
One eye
him.
has to
open, one
keep-
eye closed.
Exactly. They actually, so the show MASH aired in the 1970s, and they actually copied that same idea from it. There was this episode where they made a corporal, made him skip several ranks to a second lieutenant, and he like walks out of his tent one day right into a bunch of enlisted men, and he's just like wide-eyed and scared. He looks like a deer in a headlights, and he just has to like start saluting left and right all these people walking right down the middle of him. So quite a funny movie.
So one thing that I really enjoyed about this movie was the comedy, and a specific part of that comedy was where they're being chased by the Union
Right.
because he has taken his train back and he runs out of firewood. So he has to stop on the side of the railroad and pick up a wooden fence. There's several pieces of wood interlocked, and he's taken somebody's just random fence and he's throwing it into the cart. And there's just one plank of wood that he cannot seem to get inside of the cart. So he gets angry with it and he chunks it. And when he chunks it, he clears the cart and doesn't realize it.
The train cart.
Yeah, the train cart. Yeah, the entire train
The
cart.
train. not just a little cart on the side of the road.
And
A train.
And he just keeps chunking it. He just keeps chunking planks of wood in there, and they're all going over after this because he's got the adrenaline going, so he's mad. So when he gets back in there, he's like, "Where'd all the wood go?"
That would be something that I totally relate with because I'm kind of a klutz in real life. Like, literally, I feel like I can relate with this character, but I'm not like as stupid. Like, I tend to trip over things or am very oblivious when it comes to how I act, like almost like the Jack Sparrow type of thing, to where, to where I'm just like, I don't know how life is good for me, but it's great.
I started rewatching Pirates of the Caribbean the other day.
They're good.
And man, what a freaking funny movie.
They are so good. So, I have a question. Not a question, but really more of a statement. Like, a question for Kyler, really. He brought up something in the middle of the movie. It was like, this is a totally off-subject thing, but he was like, do you guys know what the front of the train is? And literally, me and Michael had no flipping clue. And we had this, like, game that we were like, well, we can make this to a fun little game, but we have to guess it. So, we both have 3 tries to guess what is the correct one. If we both, or either the first person to get it right wins, and then the opposite person has, we'll have a punishment. But if we both get it wrong, we both have a punishment for the next pod.
And to clarify, Kyler's the one that knew it off the top of his head, so it's going to be Ethan and I playing. Kyler's the overseer. He's the ref.
So, in case it wasn't said, the question is, what is the pointy piece of metal at the front of a train called?
I have no flipping clue. I don't want to... Oh.
All right.
Should we just get into it?
I mean, yes.
I want to say it's a plow. I had no... it just makes sense that way. Because, to plow things over. I don't know.
So, with you saying plow, I'm just going to go with the easiest thing and say it's a guard.
Guard. Okay.
Guard. I don't know why, but my brain, because he asked me this in the movie, and I was like thinking, I thought long and hard. I'm like, I think it's called a stow. I don't know why. I don't know why. Like STOW, stow. But I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm gonna Google it afterwards. But
well, I'll tell you what it is afterwards.
Well, there's a lot of names for it. But anywho,
there's a few.
Okay. Michael.
The pointy metal thing.
Pointy metal thing.
That was my next guess. That's not fair.
Okay.
You stole my guess. Okay. So, man, the pusher.
Pusher. No.
The separator.
No.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna make a ruling. Okay, first let me tell you what it is.
Okay.
So I knew the slang term for it.
Okay.
The correct term is called the pilot.
Pilot. That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
The term that I knew, is called the cow catcher.
The cow catcher.
Okay, so,
because it will literally,
mm-hmm.
if a cow's standing on the track, it'll just come up under it and push it out of the way.
That's what I was thinking.
So I'm going to give it to Ethan because he said plow.
Yeah.
So good job, Ethan.
Aw. Thank you.
Mike, you're going to have a punishment next week.
That's fine. No trains running in
Yes,
your
I
head.
finally won.
Running into your head.
I finally won.
Finally, Ethan doesn't have a punishment.
Yes.
Gosh.
I don't suck.
Perfect.
Alrighty.
I'm glad that you don't suck anymore. Cool. Well, we're going to do the after credit scene. So leave your guesses in our comments on social media.
We are going to go ahead and play this short little clip for you guys. Hopefully y'all can go ahead and guess the audio.
Perhaps you should read the instructions first.
There you guys go. Make sure y'all can go ahead and go to our social media and comment what it is. But for now, I'm Ethan.
I'm Kyler.
I'm Michael.
And this is the Feature Film Podcast.
Roll the credits. Welcome to the Feature Film. Oh my lord.
Feature Film.
Welcome to the Feature Film.
Welcome to the Feature Film Podcast, guys. I'm Kyler.
This is Ethan.
What's up, everybody?
Yes.
I'm just going to ruin that first
Wait,
thing.
what did you say?
What's up,
Is
everybody?
that what you said?
Peter McKinnon here.
Yeah.
Back for
I didn't
another,
even hear it.
another 2-Minute Tuesday.
He did
This one's going to be a little bit longer than normal. Yeah, I actually
didn't
did do this whenever we
I said,
That
he
got
crossed
me.
his hands into an X.
That
Great.
got me.
What's up, everybody? Peter McKinnon here, back for another video.
You know, you actually sound like him. Like, just listening. If you put that in the bloopers, people are actually gonna say that that's him.
That's funny.
You know, people who listen to Peter McKinnon.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no one except me listens to Peter McKinnon that listens to this podcast. Anyway.
Which. Sorry. Shut up.
Don't say that.
That was me.
That's a blue card.